In the summer of 2017, the Pepsi company tried to end systemic racism the worst way possible through celebrity endorsement and giving their drink to a police officer. Hi, I'm James Quincy, the CEO of Coca Cola, and here at this company, we know that what Pepsi did was wrong. As here at Coca Cola, we know that the only way to cure racism is with more racism. And because me and other high ups in this company are all white, we are willing to admit that we are a racist company. This is why we at Coca Cola decided to change our main logo to read Woke a Cola. And we have also decided to create a brand new soft drink called Diet Woke. And the reviews are absolutely raving. Take a look. Wow, I just really love this flavor so much. It tastes so great. It almost tastes just like regular Diet Coke, but it really just showed me how racist I really am. Even though I don't actually believe that I am racist. Hey, what you say? Nothing. Please don't fire me. I have a wife and 3 kids. So as you can see, the training is going very well, but we still have a lot to learn. But we will get it one day. So go on to your supermarket and buy some Diet Woke, and remember to be less white. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with our very 59th episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. So, here is a fun fact for everyone that is listening to this episode, and I want to make sure that this is 100% clear before we dive deeper into this episode. Racism is terrible. Racism is evil. And anyone who says that they are racist or thinks that they are better than someone else just because of the color of their skin is wrong. Now, it seems ridiculous that I even have to say this, but it seems like ever since the creation of our country has had problems with race. Like, we had a moment in our history where people in this country thought that black people were property, and they could just be bought and sold all the time. Then, America learned that racism, and also slavery, was bad. So we had a bloody civil war over it, and in the end, slaves were freed. Hip hip hooray. However, the question remained, were they really free? As for a very long time, African Americans couldn't even vote. And we had the evils of segregation. Luckily, through the 1960s, we learned that segregation and racism are wrong. So we banned segregation. And African Americans are now able to vote. And it seems like at this time in our history, we could finally say that we achieved the promise of the Constitution, that all men were created equal. In the 60s and during the Civil Rights Movement, Martin Luther King came out to be a very prominent figure. And in his speech at the Washington Monument, Dr. Martin Luther King said, "I look to a day when people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." To me, this line has a very simple meaning. We are all people, and we shouldn't be treated better or worse just because of the race that we are. This is a basic principle of equality. Everyone is a person, and instead of focusing on the race of the people, we are instead focusing on the person themselves. For example, if you walk down the street and let's say someone in front of you trips over and falls, you should help them whether or not they are black, white, yellow, or brown, because it is the right thing to do. If you are a store owner and you see a white man enter into your store and you treat him with respect, but a black man enters into your store and you get nervous that they're going to steal something, then that is wrong too, because you are treating them based on their race, not by their character. However, sadly, there is a new phenomenon that is sweeping the country. And that is the idea that instead of focusing on the character of the person, we need to actually focus on the race of the person. Now, this thinking can definitely have good intentions, as if we see people by their color, then we can understand where they may be coming from when they describe different situations that they've been through compared to what we've been through. However, a very, very big issue that could come with this idea of looking at skin color and not at character is that we can make assumptions about different people all based on the race that they are. This can all be based on the stereotypes that our culture has created. With these stereotypes in mind, a white person may assume that an African American doesn't live in a good home or neighborhood, based simply on the fact that he is black. And in the reverse of that, an African American may assume that a white person has everything handed to him because his mom and dad are rich. Both of these assumptions could be true or they could be false, but we aren't talking to each other. We're only making assumptions on people based on race. The point of this is very simple. Every race has different experiences. Some are worse than others. And we cannot assume that one race is better than the other just based on skin color. However, we are doing that right now, as people are assuming that every single white person is racist. Listen, I was shocked about how many articles that I found talking about how white people are racist. And I mean, is this supposed to unite the country? Or is it supposed to send us down a path where we are separated more than we were before? The issue is that people are accepting this stance and are calling themselves racist on purpose because it's supposed to help in some way. Just take a listen to this very special TikToker.
Exactly! I am the oppressor. I am racist. Oh my god, he just said he's racist. It shouldn't be this hard, you guys. If you live in America, went to school, participate in the socioeconomic structures, participate in any sort of system, education, business, entertainment, what have you, and you are white, you are indoctrinated, you are oppressive, and yes, you are racist. It is something that we have learned, either consciously or subconsciously, all of us as white Americans. And what we have to do is unlearn that. I'm trying to do the work. Part of doing the work is pushing against dangerous narratives that are counterintuitive to that unlearning, like white people are also oppressed by racism. We're not. We are the oppressors. That's the point. You should be doing the unlearning too. Do the work.
So yes, of course, I lost brain cells watching that video. Now, the basis for this man calling himself racist comes from a crazy idea called critical race theory, which is the idea that all white people are born oppressors. And like he said, we have to unlearn these different behaviors. So this means we have to be honest and say that we are all racist. And soon it will come to a point where everything is racist. Now I know what you're thinking. Kyle, that would never happen. There would never be a whole list of news articles talking about how simple everyday items are racist. However, there are. As with this opinion of all white people being the oppressors, people in the media have started to write different articles talking about how every average day things are racist. Let's take a look at a few, shall we? PETA came out and wrote on Twitter that milk has long been a symbol of white supremacy, which is very interesting. Then the Chicago Tribune came out with an article claiming that math was racist in Seattle. Then we have a radical idea that soap is racist. This article talks about commodity racism 101. It must be very, very important. Then we have an article from the Washington Post claiming that white people need to shut up and listen. Then this article comes out and contradicts the other one, as this article says that white silence is compliance. Then we have an article talking about how hiking is racist because it has too many white people. Then this article talks about how saying "how are you" or "how was your weekend" may be triggering to black people. Sorry for the small talk, I guess. According to this article, traffic signs are racist. I also think that they are sexist too. I'll have to look into that. Probably. Anyway, this Babe article tells us that white people trying to not be racist is actually racist, but it's on a low-key basis. PB&J sandwiches are also racist. Just don't ask about that one. That one's ridiculous. Women are also racist, as they have always been a part of white supremacy. Now, this one really cracks me up because it doesn't really mention any race of women. It just says women in general. So if you're a black woman or a white woman, apparently you're a white supremacist. I don't make the rules. I just follow them. Your dog can also be racist against other people. That must be the whole white culture thing that every single dog has. Thomas the Tank Engine is also racist. A professor was almost fired after he fell asleep during a Zoom meeting talking about race. Seriously, this is real stuff. They wanted to fire this man for falling asleep. I mean, how dare he? Or she, I don't know. Last but not least, my most favorite one of them all, a woman filmed herself driving without a seatbelt. Says, They are racist to fat people. Well, I'm not sure that fat is a race, but I mean, I guess we'll just let that one slide. Anyway, I can assure you that these articles are 100% real. And with these few examples that we have, we are beginning to see that the labeling of things that are racist has gone a little bit out of control. So let's say after going over this list of absolute ridiculousness, you may not still be convinced and are still thinking, well, I don't want to be racist. How can I cure myself of this racism? How can I be less white? Well, first of all, if you are white, you can't really fix it. However, you can stop some of the symptoms. All thanks to your job. As many different big corporations like Coca-Cola, or as I like to call them now, Woke-a-Cola, are starting to have different diversity classes to help you cure your racism. As this week, there was a tweet that came out that showed images from a whistleblower that worked for Coca-Cola talking about these different trainings. One of these slides reads, "Try to be less white," which is the whole goal of this training. The slides continue to talk about how you can achieve this goal of being less white, as it says, be less oppressive, be less arrogant, be less certain, be less defensive, be less ignorant, be more humble, listen, believe, break with apathy, and break with white solidarity. Now, my favorite one of these ways of not being racist is to be less defensive. Because if you're less defensive, then that means that you are submissive to everything because you don't want to be viewed as racist. As for example, let's say you're working at Coca-Cola and you and your coworkers are talking about politics and you say, well, I like the Republican Party. The person that you are talking to snaps back with, that's racist. How would you respond? Well, you might say, hey, I'm not racist at all. Oh, nice try, but that is the wrong answer. As according to Robin DiAngelo, a sociologist and the inspiration for this woke program, recently claimed in a video, white people should take out the phrase, I'm not racist, from their vocabulary, because it doesn't mean anything. Just take a listen to this. It's pretty shocking.
I'm going to speak to white people right now. Consider removing the claim, I'm not racist, from your vocabulary. It's functionally meaningless. It's not convincing to anyone who understands systemic racism. It just tells you that this person has no idea and likely will not be open. And so even that we are talking about systemic racism is a huge breakthrough in our ability to move forward. That gives me hope, but I think it should be very clear in this political moment, we can never, ever be complacent or think we're post-racial or think that everything's done and everything's set.
Of course, we do not live in a post-racial world. And of course, there are still things that we need to work on in our society to make sure that everyone is more equal. This, however, is where the problem lies. If we go back to the situation and you are trying to defend yourself and say, no way, I'm not racist, then that's being defensive, which means that you are in fact a racist. So in the situation of talking to your coworker and they claim you're racist, apparently you're just supposed to say, yes, I am a racist. Which, that doesn't sound like a good thing either, because if you claim that you're racist, then that means that you're prejudiced against other people. However, what we learned at the beginning of the video says that it's good to point out your racism and that we're all racist, meaning that we have to unlearn different things in our brain, just like the TikToker said. So honestly, I am so confused about this. For the woke people out there, is being racist a good thing or a bad thing? I know it's a bad thing, but according to these TikTokers and these Robin DiAngelo peoples, apparently saying that you're racist is a good thing. I mean, seriously, I am just so confused by it all. I need a diet woke. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, racism. So the problem with this stuff is that we are teaching a group of people that they are racist. And now I know what you're thinking. Kyle, reverse racism doesn't exist. And you're right, it doesn't, because it is just called racism. Judging people by the color of their skin, no matter what skin color that they are, is 100% wrong. There is a possibility with this situation that two things can be true at once. We can say that black people have struggled in America, and it is important to talk about those different issues that they are having today and also from the past. Also, it can be true that calling everyone of another race as racist, terrible people that need to unlearn things is wrong. And this shouldn't even be controversial. However, the people that have the same opinions as I do are being labeled as racist, and some are even losing their jobs. So people have to stay quiet and follow the motions. Just like if you disagree with Coca-Cola's agenda, then you could be fired. But it isn't just the major corporations, as this idea of the critical race theory is also coming onto college campuses as well. As you may already have possibly known, college campuses have basically turned into a center for left-wing thinking. I have said it before, and I believe it was in a very, very early episode, that I said that I had a college professor that was literally a communist. I mean, he was nice about it, but he definitely liked Marx and his ideas. Luckily, I wasn't brainwashed by this crap, but sadly, others didn't make it out. Colleges are starting to teach critical race theory, and some teachers are disagreeing with this, like Cornell professor William Jacobson, who wrote, "Many parents have no clue that behind closed doors, students and faculty are being coerced into silence, as well as pushed to admit anyone who disagrees with this radical ideology is racist. Once again, if you disagree, you are labeled as a terrible person, which is wrong, and we should be able to have conversations about these different issues." Now, this whole woke class that they're talking about promoting at Cornell University hasn't really started yet. However, Jacobson, the professor, still warned that it perpetuates what's been going on. They claim it's negative, so I think what's the downside? It brands people who are not racist as racist, because that's the way they're constructing it. It demonizes large sections of the campus, and it doesn't change any minds. I don't know how it could get any more worse than that. And yes, it is pretty bad, because demonizing people makes them want to quit their jobs because they don't want to work in such a terrible environment. And people are also scared of this woke mob that is coming after them. College professors have already called it quits, as Jody Shaw, a professor at Smith College, explained that it was an agonizing decision. "I knew I could not return to work in such a hostile environment." I mean, to be honest, who would want to work in such a toxic environment where people are claiming that you are racist? And also, the college is promoting this stuff, and it's just a toxic situation all around. Along with this, many celebrities have also lost their jobs from this, quote, woke mob that is coming after them. Like Gina Carano, who was a star on the new Star Wars Mandalorian show. She was fired for talking about the mob mentality that took over in German culture during World War II, as neighbors turned against each other to tell the police that their neighbors were hiding Jewish people in their attics. The point of the meme that she was posting was to be kind to your neighbor and don't fall for this woke mob mentality, especially if they are doing something wrong. And this is what caused her to get fired, as apparently saying all this made her anti-Semitic. Luckily, she was hired by a Jewish podcaster, so I think she's not really that anti-Semitic, because that wasn't her point at all in the message. Chris Harrison, the host of the Bachelor franchise, was also fired and removed from the rest of the shows because he supported a contestant going to an antebellum party on a southern plantation years ago. It wasn't on the show, it wasn't a part of the show, it was just a contestant going to a party a long, long time ago. But apparently, this was really, really bad. As Chris Harrison came out and was like, well, maybe we should give her some grace, and maybe she learned from this experience and she's moved on. It's been a couple of years. Let's see what happens. Maybe she's a different person now. And that she has learned from her mistakes. Apparently, this was the wrong answer. And this is what got the whole fan base upset. And it resulted in him getting fired from his job. Now, these two people that I mentioned are celebrities. But what about you? A person that may be working to make ends meet, and your boss comes up to you and says you have to take this diversity training like they do at Coca-Cola. What are you going to do? Are you going to quit your job that you need to have? Or are you just going to go with the flow and shut up and not say anything? Because you know that there is a possibility that you could be fired for not following these woke programs. And it is a sad fact that as these different diversity programs get more and more popular, people will accept the idea that all white people are racist. There is no discussion. There is no arguing. This is how it is. And if you don't agree, then you are a racist. It scares me that these ideas, along with these different trainings, have become more and more popular in pop culture, corporations, and schools. It honestly makes me wonder what the future of our country holds. In the end, I believe that racism is terrible and wrong and should not be accepted into our society, and it should be 100% stopped. However, the idea of ending racism with more racism is not the best idea in my book. Now, this may be one of my most controversial episodes, but it shouldn't be, because all that I'm saying is that we need to focus on people and who they truly are as a person, not based on skin color. This idea does not mean that I want to ignore the racist problems that we have in our society, because I believe that we can have a conversation about those different situations. And I believe those conversations may be more beneficial if we don't assume that all white people are racist, terrible people. What this does is make people more angry. It drives a deeper wedge into society, as when black people think that all white people are racist and all white people think that black people will just call them racist, then we will never get along. This could lead to more people being more racist. And maybe some people will say, hey, we just need to separate blacks and whites. And once again, we are stuck in the terrible grips of segregation. I know that seems like a stretch, but if it comes to that, we need to stand up against it. This means that we must stand up to the colleges teaching this agenda and also to the corporations that are pushing this agenda as well. I believe that it is leading us down a very, very dark path. And honestly, I hope that there isn't a dark path. I hope that we can sort of turn this around and make our country better by listening to people, talking about different problems and how we can solve them. It doesn't all have to be about race. But if it is about race, I believe that we can have a good civil discussion about it without assuming that one party is racist, one party is terrible, one party is horrible. I just really, really hope that that all makes sense. And I also just wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Dockery Docket. And until next time, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving, goodbye.